sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man also be ashamed, when he comes in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. And he said to them, Truly I say to you, there are some standing here who will not taste death before they see the kingdom of God come with power.
Today we celebrate the Sunday after the elevation of the Holy Cross, and the Sunday before the Holy Cross, the Sunday of the Holy Cross, and the Sunday after the Holy Cross always had readings of Jesus talking about his own cross. And I would like, if I can, explain today the fact that Jesus looked at the cross. It was a fearsome weapon of death in the hands of the Roman authorities, but there was nothing more fearsome than Christ's faithfulness. There's nothing on earth that's intimidating when you're inspired by the Father. Now, I can say that, but the more we practice our faith, the less fearful we'll be. When there is an opposition in front of us, we'll look not at that opposite thing, not that wall in front of us, because we'll be seeing the horizon in front of the obstacle. We'll be looking at where the sun is, S-O-N, and where the sun is, S-U-N, rather than the darkness behind us. If you're going towards Christ, your shadow falls behind you. If you're going away from Christ, your shadow's ahead of you. And it gets larger and more shadowy and more gray and dingy and made dark all the time. And pretty soon the light you think you had is no longer around you, and you're groping in the dark. So it's much better to have your shadow behind you and his image in front of you, so that the sun is shining in your life all the time. Now I can extend that metaphor throughout the sermon, but I'm going to go on to a few other things of what's important. Practically, we wonder how the Son of God could continually get the kind of opposition he got from all the religious leaders of his time and still go forward and still help everyone. If you think about it, Jesus' energy never ever was weak. Even after he spoke with many crowds, and he didn't even eat. And his apostles said, we have nothing to eat. Jesus said, do not labor for the bread which perisheth. Even then, he had this great power in him. And if you think, you'll say, well, Bishop Anthony, after all, he's the Son of God, so he brought that power with him. But he was training us in his own life with this great power, that any crosses we have, any obstacles, if after we've expended our energy, we can expand the energy by one thing, prayer. Jesus, if you'll notice in the gospel, after all And only after hours of prayer did he come down from the mountain and walk on water. We can't walk on water before we're on the top of the mountain. Before we're praying, we can't be playing. We can't be walking. We can't be doing anything extraordinary if we don't do the ordinary daily prayers that even Jesus Christ did. The key to carrying the cross is by bearing our love to God in prayer. The reason Jesus had absolute confidence in what he did, even mounting Mount Golgotha with his cross, is because he was in communion with his Father constantly. The bond, and may I say, the nails which fastened his heart to God the Father were a lot bigger than the nails that fastened his hands to the cross. And the iron that was used in his personal spiritual prayer was so strong that the bands of that grace and love could never, ever be weaker. No human being could put him on the cross. Why did they bound his hands and feet when love would have held him there? If the Father wanted him on the cross to die for our sins and to rise again, because that's what the Father wanted, the Son was going to do it. You know, when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he asked his Father if this was the only way he could save mankind. And when he got the answer in the silence of that time, he said, "Let's be going." And he never looked back. And even when he was weak, they had Cyrene of Cyrene carry his cross. Jesus didn't look to the people who were whipping him. He didn't look to the soldiers. He just looked straight ahead and he said, "Let's go." Well, I added that to the gospel. But I interpreted it, "Let's go." Because he knew that he was pleasing his Father. When we get resistance in our life, the only way is we have to earn our rest. We have to earn our rest by going against the tide, by going against the current, by moving upstream. Even those salmon would move upstream, and those big swimmers, the big fish, they would go upstream first to lead everyone else there. And you have people watching them and they think, well, how could they ever get up there? Because they had an instinct to go home. Jesus had an inclination to go home. He had a will to go back to his Father. So he swam upstream all the way back into heaven. And the reason is because he loved his Father. When we love someone that much, there's nothing that can keep us away from pleasing them and doing thy will. He said, "I and the Father are one. I don't do anything without my Father." He was tied to his Father with a great love. We don't know how many eons and ages he enjoyed the presence of his Father without any of the creation. We only know what's revealed to us. But we know that there's nothing the Father asked the Son that he wouldn't do. And he may have thought, well, can I do all this like in the Garden of Gethsemane? But he still went ahead and did it. So I think we have to act on our faith. We can't act on our analysis. Analysis creates paralysis. If we analyze everything we're supposed to do, well, that might be a good beginning. We don't want to be foolish. But after that, if faith is telling us to go forward, let's fearlessly go forward into the future and never look back. That's the great lesson of Christ. It's not only in his divinity that he was strong. He showed that a human being must be filled with the grace of divinity and go through everything that seems to be impossible. My father used to tell me, the difficult we do immediately. The impossible will take only a little longer. trumps everything. And we live in a world today where everybody's trying to find the biggest and broadest and softest and luxurious comfort zone. Comfort zone. We're putting down crosses all the time. We're laying them down. We think we have to go to the place that gives us the least resistance. And we think that that's the place that's going to give us the most comfort. I don't think it works that way. The more that we're challenged, the more our personality expands. The more we realize we can do it. The more we realize we can do it, there's another big obstacle on the way. I think crises are opportunities. A crisis is a step up. If we can pass the test of that uncertain moment, we can get to a higher place and realize that there's no step we can't take. There's a summit we can reach, no matter if we can't see it beside the clouds yet. That's what Jesus is telling us. We have a great strength in us to do it. If you think about this, my brothers and sisters, remember the story of Annie Sullivan and Helen Keller. I don't know, it maybe when we grew up, we always knew that. Anne Sullivan didn't know her purpose in life. She was kind of hampered by different passions. She had a great brilliance and a great God-given energy, but she didn't know what direction to put that energy in. But she had a great talent for people who had special needs. And she got a letter in the mail and a phone call that she had a challenge. There was this girl, Helen Keller, that was blind, that was deaf, that was intransient, that was stubborn, that was willful, but she had potential. And Sullivan could have said, no, it's too much for me, especially because she was wrapped up in her own self-absorbed world. But for some reason, she broke out of that at that moment and said, I'll do it. And because she did it and trained that wonderful Helen Keller, who's given us all of her writings and her inspiration over the time that we can even read now, is because she said, I can do it. And what it did was, it focused her, it settled her, it regularized her, it inspired her, it energized her, and it made her personality in the full expression of what God had wanted it, because there was such a challenge and such an obstacle that it couldn't be done, that nobody else wanted it. Maybe we should really think, and all of us should think, if there's a challenge that we really don't want, but it's a really good challenge, it's an objectively good challenge, and for some reason, providentially, we're put in that space, I think we have to think about Jesus. Whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life, whoever takes a risk to take that challenge will save it. The reason we will save it is because we will expand it. We will expand it into becoming all it could be. When Jesus died on the cross, they thought he lost. The Roman soldiers thought he was just another dead man. The religious authorities thought their authority wasn't being threatened by a dead man. Hades took a dead man. And as St. John Chrysostom said, behold, Hades trembled. Hell received a man, and God was there. So sometimes when we think we've failed, or we haven't done that which we can, and we have everybody telling us we're a failure, we can hallow the halls of hell and bring everybody back to heaven in our own way, the way Jesus did, because he loved the Father. And there was no cross bigger. And I'll leave you with this. We have two choices in life. We can either keep the cross wooden and full of splinters so that we're afraid of it, golden and make it a throne. But we can't lay them down. If we lay them down, we will never become what God intended us to be. Me too. You and me. Whatever cross we have, let's make it golden.